Okay, activities are going on right now.
Yeah, like only one activity we have to make a PPT on one bit in this lesson.
Will you please repeat it again? Due to background noise, I can hardly understand what you're saying. Repeat again.
We only have one activity, like where we a teacher will give us one topic in which we have to be a group and make a PPT and present it tomorrow. We have to present it tomorrow.
Okay, okay. So you guys have a presentation tomorrow.
Yes, we have to
Oh,
make it.
okay. What is the topic of your presentation?
Um,
Mm-hmm.
Alternative. Alternative arrangement for sewage disposal.
Alternative arrangement for sewage disposal. Okay, okay. So that topic is related to this chapter. In fact, we have a topic related to that. Okay, na?
Yes, sir, but my
Mhm.
friend is making so. Yeah.
Okay. So who will be presenting it? Who will
We
be?
all should be presenting like in a.
Mhm.
Will be one will be explaining, another one will be answering the questions like that.
Okay, so you will be presenting or you'll be answering what part you will be playing in that? What
Yeah,
will be
that
your
will
role?
be. Yeah, sir. That we all will discuss in class.
Okay, okay. Okay, anyways, but it is important that you have some idea about this. Okay, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I will give you a quick recap of this topic. Quickly let us discuss about this and then we will continue with that topic. Okay, no? That is the wastewater treatment plant. Okay. See, now also turn your camera on in the class now. Now we see that the wastewater treatment plant may not be present everywhere. It might not be present everywhere. Getting it? So suppose, for example, if like people who are living in the village areas, or they are living in the forest areas, or they are living in very isolated buildings, right now, or like there are hospitals, or people are living in small clusters, right? So where there the wastewater treatment plant might not be there. Getting it, Razan? That plant might not be there. So how will they dispose the waste? How will they dispose the waste that is being produced? Human waste is being produced there also now. Humans are producing their waste, even if they are living in a very isolated place, so they are producing the waste. So how will they get rid of it? How they will dispose it? So for that we have got three types of alternate sewage disposal, namely three types, although there are many more. So you have low cost on site sewage disposal systems, meaning that the place where the sewage are being produced, at that place only it will be disposed. Getting it? But
Yes, sir.
in the wastewater treatment plant, what we have learned that, like, the wastewater treatment plant might be several kilometers away from my house. So whatever sewage is being produced from my in my house, it is being carried by the sewerage system to that wastewater treatment plant. But in an isolated place, the wastewater treatment plant might not be there. So thereby we have three main alternative disposal methods. The first is the septic tank. So they are ideal for areas without a sewerage system, right? Like in a hospital, in isolated buildings, or in small clusters of homes. So take a look at the septic tank diagram over here. 1 minute. That is a septic tank over here. Now, in the septic tank, what happens? All the human waste would be going into the septic tank. All the human waste goes into the septic tank, getting it. And it has an inlet pipe which will be bringing it, and it has an outlet pipe also. It has an outlet pipe also, right? So, a septic tank is often installed under the ground in houses or in buildings, such as in the hospitals, in fact, in the schools, etc, and it will allow for the decomposition of sewage from home through the help of anaerobic bacteria. So what is happening here? See, like, there's a house. Suppose there is this house, and all the waste from this house, all the sewage is being decomposed. Sorry, is being sent into the septic tank. So suppose this is a pipe that is carrying it. This is the pipe that is carrying the waste from the house to the septic tank. Now, as the waste will go into the septic tank, so with the help of anaerobic bacteria, it will be decomposed. With the help of which kind of bacteria?
Anaerobic.
So anaerobic bacteria decomposes the sewage that goes in this. Getting it now? So that is the main thing that happens in the sewage tank, in the septic tank. Okay. Now further, there is an outlet pipe also. There's an outlet pipe also. So what will be happening as the sewage is entering into this pipe, into this tank? I mean to say it's a tank. So thereby the human waste, the human fecal matter, the stool, uh, it will be settling at the bottom. It will settle at the bottom, right? And the water will float above it, and there might be oil and grease particles also that will float on top of it, and that we're calling as scum. So you have got oil and grease like particles, oil, grease, etc. They are lighter in density, hence they will float on top of it. They will float on top of it. So that is called as scum. And on top of it, we have a manhole cover also. Manhole cover also. So that if there is some problem in the septic tank, if it is completely filled up, so thereby why the manhole cover, the sewage can be taken out of this. Getting it, Razan? And the waste water that accumulates in the septic tank, via the outlet pipe, this water will be sent to the drain field. Getting it? So that is how the septic tank basically works, and it is an alternate sewage disposal. Harim, right now is not the time for the class. We'll be having your class after an hour or so, I guess. Yeah. So in this septic tank diagram, what have you understood so far? It's a alternate sewage disposal method which is often installed under the ground in houses or buildings such as in the hospitals. It allows decomposition of sewage from home with the help of anaerobic bacteria. Plus, it has a manhole cover through which the sewage can be taken out of this. Okay, if too much of sewage accumulates inside this, then it has an outlet pipe also through which the water will be taken out and it will go to the drain field.
Sir,
Understood this? Yes.
what if the tank will be full?
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. That if the tank is full now, so why this manhole cover? The manhole cover will be removed, and the sewage from this one, basically the sludge, will be taken out by the manhole cover. Like there will be a big pipe that will be inserted into this. Like there will be a big pipe that will go inside this, and via the vacuum, it will be sucked out via the pipe. All the sludge will be sucked out via this pipe if it is completely filled. You understood this so far? Good. Next, you have the chemical toilets. You have the chemical toilets. Now, see, say for example, in some places where septic tank is not built, or for example, especially in the sport stadiums. Okay, now when the sport events will be happening in a given place, or some event has been organized, so there we have chemical toilets. They have chemical toilets are used there, right? So chemical toilet basically has a compartment inside it. There's a small the box inside this chemical toilet that will be treating the human waste with chemicals and will decrease the bad smell coming out of it. So it will be kind of having a box inside this, into which whatever human waste is accumulating inside this box, so it will be treated with the chemicals. So with the help of chemicals, the bad odor coming out of it, it is reduced. Odor is reduced. So that is the concept of chemical toilet. Getting it so far? Yes, Razan. So far we have seen we have the septic tank, and thereby you have this chemical toilet. Okay. So also, like, they have limited storage capacity for human waste, and it needs to be emptied regularly. Okay, now once it will be full, it has to be emptied. So these are the toilets which use chemically treated, like basically the waste, human waste is chemically treated to reduce the smell coming out of it. Right. So it will be reducing the foul smell coming out of the human waste, and will also partially digest, will also disinfect the human waste, partially disinfect the human waste. Right. So about the chemical toilets, it is used in particularly used in places where wastewater treatment plant or septic tanks are not available. Next, it has a small storage capacity. Further, the waste are treated chemically. So human waste are chemically treated. And what this does now, it reduces the foul smell coming out of it, reduces the foul smell coming out of it, right? That is all about the chemical toilet. Okay. After this, we have the composting pits. After this, we have the composting pits. So it will convert the waste into compost. It will convert the waste into compost. Okay. Now, like, they are kind of self-sustained waste disposal systems, right? They are kind of self-sustained human waste disposal system. See what happens in this one. Okay. Basically, first we need to understand, like, what is compost. What is compost? Okay, now the word compost basically refers to something that is made due to the decomposition of organic matter. Okay, like for example, you take some vegetable peels, you take dead leaves, you take wood choppings or grass clippings, right? And we decompose all of this with the help of microorganisms. So due to the decomposition all of these materials, a compost is formed, which is very fertile, Getting it or not? Hmm? Okay. So compost can be prepared from the human waste also. Although usually it is prepared, like it can be prepared from the vegetable peels, from the dead, from the vegetable peels, from the wood choppings, grass clippings, etc. But it can be produced from the human waste also. So that is one thing. So what we can do, we can convert the human waste into compost, and compost is very much rich in nutrients. It is highly fertile. So thereby it can be later on added to the soil to improve its fertility. So human excreta can be reused to enhance the fertility of the soil. So let us understand how it is done basically. Okay, see, here's the toilet. Okay, this is basically a called as wormy toilet. What do we call this? This is called as composting toilet. This one is particularly
Wormy toilet.
composting toilet. We'd be seeing this one. Okay, composting toilet. What it does, it converts human waste into compost. Here's how it happens. Now, in this chemical toilet, in this composting toilet, the human fecal matter, the human waste goes into this chamber, goes into this tank. And inside this tank, it converts into compost. It will be converting into compost inside this tank, getting it. And from another pipe, it will be taken out and will be reused as fertilizers. Like it will be added to the soil to increase its fertility. Got it or not? Please tell me if you're getting it so far. Yeah.
Say.
Hmm. Now, now in order to increase the decomposition of the human fecal matter, human waste into this tank, we might add the worms also in this one. The earthworms can also be added into this, right? So we have got a small worms like earthworms that can also be added to treat the human excreta, to convert the human excreta into compost, right? That is one thing. And like this composting toilet, it uses very less amount of water. Can you get that? It reduces the consumption of water also. The water required to flush the waste is very less in this one. So these were the three main types of alternate sewage disposal method which we have. Tell me if you have questions from any of these.
No, sir.
Okay, good. So septic tank, it's a low cost on-site sewage disposal system. The place where the sewage is being produced, at the very same place it will be decomposed with the help of anaerobic bacteria, right? And the septic tank needs to be cleaned every few months, like 6 months or 12 months, depending on its size. So it's basically consisting of a big covered underground tank, and it is made up of concrete. It has a one inlet pipe and it has outlet pipe, right? Then we see that as the waste would be entering into this via the inlet pipe, so thereby the anaerobic decomposition will take place, right? The human waste would be settling down, right, at the bottom, and that is called a sludge. And you have oil and grease, lighter particles would be settling on top of it. That is one thing. And excessive water from the septic tank is taken out through the outlet pipe, and it gets absorbed into the soil. As for the composting, as for the chemical toilets, we have learned that they have limited storage capacity for human waste, and that needs to be emptied regularly. And with the help of chemicals, the foul smell coming out of the human excreta is reduced, right? And also it partially disinfects the human fecal matter. As for the composting pit, so basically the human waste is being converted into compost. It can also be done with the help of worms also. Okay, let's get back to the topic which we were doing. So if tomorrow in presentation you were asked to present it, will you be able to present the alternate sewage disposal methods?
Yes, yes, sir.
Good. So we were learning about the wastewater treatment plant. So we have learned that it is a facility, it is a place where chemical, biological, and physical processes are used to treat the wastewater. Wastewater, or also we generally are referring to sewage as the wastewater. And it has various benefits, right? First of all, it is protecting our environment. So it reduces pollution by treating the wastewater before it is being discharged into natural water bodies, right? So if it we were to release the wastewater into the water bodies without being treated, so it will contaminate the wastewater. No, it will contaminate the river water, isn't it? So that is the first benefit, prevents contamination of the water bodies. Then for public health also it is important. So it is removing the harmful bacteria, viruses, and pathogens, basically disease causing microbes, disease causing microorganisms microorganisms, and makes water safe for human use, right? So if the sewage from the house were not to be taken away and were not to be treated in the wastewater treatment plant, so it will lead to the spread of the bacteria, viruses, and pathogens, and can make the health of the public very bad, can lead to spread of diseases. So that is another benefit. Third is the water conservation, right? So the water that has been treated here can be reused for non-drinking purposes, right? So it can be used for watering the plants, can be used for washing the car, etc. So thereby we are conserving the water also. Then it improves the ecosystem also, right? So the harmful chemicals that are present in the sewage, like the harmful chemicals that are present in the wastewater. Okay, so that is also being removed from it, because if the wastewater were to be directly released into the oceans, into the lakes or rivers, and it contains harmful toxic substances, toxins are present in it. If it were to be directly released into the river, so what will happen? It will be dangerous for the aquatic life also. The fishes might die. The aquatic plants will also start to die. Right? That is one thing. Then the wastewater has got nutrients in it also. Razan, you paying attention here? You there now? Yeah. I'm
Yes,
saying
sir.
that wastewater has got so much of nutrients also. As we have learned about the composition of wastewater. So if too much of nutrients were to go into the water bodies, so thereby it will lead to grow of alga. In the water body, you will see that it can lead to the growth of alga, and that will also be a problematic situation. Alga, you understand, no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good. That is one thing. Further, we are seeing that apart from improving the ecosystem, it manages the human waste also, right? So the treatment of the solid waste, particularly the sludge, which is the solid waste in the sewage, it reduces health risk and can be used as fertilizer or can be used to obtain energy also. So if the human fecal matter that later on accumulates in the form of sludge in the wastewater treatment plant, if it were not to be treated, and if it were not to be taken away from the homes, from the hospitals and buildings, so thereby the accumulation of those human waste in those public areas can pose risk to the health of the people, right? So not only its removal is important, but it can also be reused as fertilizer and can also be used to obtain energy out of it. So these are the advantages. Before we continue further, you need to take a look at this video. Okay, now so pay attention to this video. After this, we will be continuing with the other steps.
Cities and towns have sewerage systems in place to carry the wastewater from our homes, hotels, factories, and other establishments to a sewerage treatment plant where the wastewater is treated. It is then deemed safe to release into other water sources. The treatment of wastewater goes through different stages. Wastewater is treated to remove the physical, chemical, and biological contaminants present in it through various processes. The pre-treatment process involves the sewage being sent through grids or vertical bars that can remove large solid substances like metal cans, paper, and plastic materials. In primary treatment process, the sewage flows through the grit chamber very slowly, so that the sand, pebbles, and soil settle down at the bottom. The sewage flows into the settling tank or sedimentation tank, where the solid wastes like feces are allowed to settle down. Wastes such as soaps, oils, and grease rise to the top of the wastewater. The waste material that settles down at the bottom is called the sludge, and the floatable material is called the scum. Scum is then removed using a skimmer, and sludge is removed with a scraper every few days. The water that is left out is called the clarified water. In the secondary treatment process, biological or organic wastes are removed. It is a biological process. This is done by transferring the clarified water into an aeration tank, where air blowers bubble air, which helps the aerobic bacteria to grow and feed on the organic contaminants such as food waste, feces, and other organisms. The mixture then flows from the aeration tank into the clarifier, where activated sludge settles out by gravity. The activated sludge so produced, along with the sludge produced in the primary process, is transferred to the digester, where it is decomposed.
Okay, I'd be pausing for just 1 minute. See, in the sedimentation tank, Okay, in the settling tank, sludge was settling at the bottom, right, Razan?
So,
Sludge was settling, and there is another sludge in the clarifier tank also. So how are they different? Huh? Basically, sludge is kind of a general term that is used for a substance that is found in the wastewater. It is found in the wastewater, right? Well, activated sludge is a type of sludge that is created during the sewage treatment process. During the process, this sludge is being produced. So thereby, this is called as activated sludge. So it's kind of a sludge that is created during the sewage treatment. You getting it so far? Like this sludge is already present in the wastewater. Okay, no? It is a substance that is found in the wastewater. But this is the one that is being produced in the process of sewage treatment. Okay, let's continue.
By anaerobic bacteria. Biogas, where it is decomposed by anaerobic bacteria. Biogas is produced in this process, which can be used as fuel or can be used to produce electricity. The activated sludge is then left in the sand drying beds. Some quantity of water in the activated sludge evaporates and the remaining quantity drains through the sand beds. This leaves behind the remaining dried sludge, which can be used for making fertilizers or compost. In the tertiary treatment process, the leftover wastewater is treated with chlorine to remove the phosphorus compounds, nitrogen compounds, and bacteria. It is a chemical process. Chlorine tablets are added to kill the germs. This process is called chlorination. Then this water is let off into the water bodies.
So that was all about the wastewater treatment plant. Hope you have understood what is being described into this.
yes, sir.
So first what happened, let me just give a quick recap once again. First what happened, the sewage is passing through this bar screen, right? And this process is called as screening, in which the physical objects, in which the solid objects like plastic cans, polybags, polythenes, etc. are separated from this. Then the water goes into the grit tank, where the grit, sand, and pebbles are separated from this. It will be settling at the bottom. And after the grit tank, it goes into this settling tank, or also called a sedimentation tank, in which the human feces, human fecal matter, would be settling at the bottom, and that is called as sludge, SLUDGE, that is sludge. Let me write it over here. That is sludge. And light particles like oil and grease would be settling on the top, and that we were calling as scum. Now, every 3 to 4 days, the scum is taken out. It is separated using a skimmer, and the sludge is also separated using a scraper. Now, the water that accumulates, the water that is present here is called as clarified water. Getting it? And it goes into the aeration tank. Further, in the aeration tank, what happens? In the aeration tank, what will be happening? The air is blown from beneath. Why the air is being blown from the beneath? So that aerobic bacteria can decompose the organic substance present in it, like tiny fruit particles, tiny vegetable particles are there, tiny human waste are there. So that will be eaten up by the aerobic bacteria. So aerobic bacteria, they need oxygen, no, isn't it? Aerobic bacteria needs air to grow. So that's why from beneath, oxygen or like air is being basically pumped into this aeration tank, so that aerobic bacteria can grow and feed on the organic waste that is still present in this water. After this, what will happen? The water goes into the clarifier. Now in the clarifier, activated sludge is produced that settles in the bottom. So you have got activated sludge in this one. Now, see, if you were to look at this tank and this tank, from both of these, From this one, the settling tank, sludge goes into the digester. And from the clarified tank, the activated sludge goes into the digester. Now in digester, what happens? The anaerobic bacteria are going to break it down further. Anaerobic bacteria, you understand? They will be breaking down the sludge in the absence of oxygen. Okay. And in the process of doing so, biogas is produced. Biogas is produced. So biogas is a fuel now. So it will be used as a fuel. The biogas produced here will be used as a fuel. And then what happens? The sludge further goes into the sand drying bed. So the sludge that is falling over here, so it will have some water in it. So water will evaporate out of it. Water
Sir,
evaporates. Yes.
then it becomes sand.
Can we?
Then it will become sand.
No, it will not become sand. Basically, you have taken some sand onto which the sludge is falling. The sludge coming from the pipe is falling onto this sand. Okay. Then what will happen? Like the reason why we have taken the sand, no? Because the sludge will still have some water and the water will percolate through the sand like this. The water present in it will percolate through the sand and some of the water will evaporate and the sludge will be left in the open sun for drying. And it's basically has converted into compost, which can be later spread to the crop fields to improve the fertility of the soil. Then coming to this another tank. So water from the clarified tank then goes into the disinfectant tank. Now in the disinfected tank, chlorine tablets are put. These are the chlorine tablets. What the chlorine tablets would be doing? It will first kill the bacteria. Kill bacteria. Next, it removes harmful chemicals like nitrates and phosphates from it. So it removes the harmful chemicals. Like for example, you have nitrates or you have phosphates. So those harmful chemicals are removed from the water. And this process, this whole process is called as chlorination. And finally, after chlorination, the water is completely disinfected and it is safe for being released into the water bodies. It can also be reused for non-drinking purposes like washing the car, watering the crops, etc. So that in short, I have tried to explain the whole methods that is used in this wastewater treatment plant. Getting it or not?
It's
Okay. Have you prepared any notes from this chapter so far? Have you written anything?
no, sir.
No? Okay. So in the previous class, I did describe in detail about the physical treatment, that is the screening method. That is done with the help of the bar screens. Then we did learn about the grit tank, right? This is the grit tank.
Sir, these all tanks will be under the underground.
No, they are not under the ground. They are above the surface, above the land. Okay, no, they are not under the ground.
But we
Getting it?
can't see them.
No, we can actually see them. Let me show you an actual image of this wastewater treatment plant. I guess I can, we might get some relevant images. See, take a look at this one, and take a look at one minute. You see this one? Like all these are different tanks here. All of these are different tanks. Okay, Razan?
They'll be that big.
Yes?
They'll be that big.
They will be packed.
So big.
Yeah, yeah, they are very big. Okay, no, they are very big because the water from the whole city is coming to this place, no? So it is very big. Okay. So some of them would be the grid tanks, some of it will be sedimentation tanks, some of them would be aeration tank like this. Okay, no? As you can see here, like this one has a separate different design. Okay, 1 minute. So in this one, you will see the sewage is passing through the different tanks here. Okay. So they are not underground, but they are on the surface, above the surface. Okay. So physical treatment in this we have, yes. So in the physical treatment, we have learned about screening and separation of pebbles and sand and grit. Then talking about the removal of solids from this one. So what happens in the settling tank? This one was the settling tank, right? Settling tank, or basically the sedimentation tank, or it's the first sedimentation tank. See, in this first sedimentation tank, what is happening? Let us understand. Okay. So in this one, the first sedimentation tank. Why we are calling this first sedimentation tank? Because there are two sedimentation tanks. So can I keep that in mind? So the first sedimentation tank is sloped towards the center, as we can see here, sloped towards the center, right? In this, what happens? Oil and grease, oil and grease settles, would be floating at the surface, floats on surface, and is removed with the help, and is called as scum. Further, it is removed by skimmer. So every 3 to 4 days, it will be removed with the help of a skimmer. Getting it? Next, we have the solid waste. So solid waste, like feces, 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 settles at the bottom. Settles at the bottom, right? And this is called as sludge. And sludge is removed with the help of scraper. So it is removed with scraper. Then what is happening to the sludge that is removed here? It goes to the digester tank. It goes to the digester, right? Getting it what I'm trying to say?
Sir.
So the sludge goes to the digester. We will get back to the digester once again. Okay, now after some time we will go back to this digester.
The active sludge will be also.
The activated sludge will also go into the digester. We'll be learning about both of them together. Okay. Now see in this one what is happening. Like the biological treatment basically starts from here, right? So in the biological treatment, as the water from, like this one over here is the settling tank. From the settling tank, as you can see here, from this settling tank or the sedimentation tank, the water goes into the aeration tank. Now in the aeration tank, what is happening?
The small aerobic bubbles will break the small food vegetable peels like that. Small food particle.
Right. Good. So the water that gets cleared off, the water in this that gets cleared out of the rubbish, out of oil, grease, and sludge, right? So we get that water as clarified water, which is now being sent to the aeration tank. Now in the aeration tank, the watery waste already contains bacteria. Aerobic bacteria are already present in it, right? Getting it? Like we are not adding it. It is already present in that watery waste that is coming into the aeration tank. So in this one now, we are compressing air bubbles into this waste to provide oxygen to the bacteria so that we can increase the bacterial activities, which will digest the human waste. It will digest the human waste, food waste, soaps, and other unwanted harmful matter that is still remaining in the wastewater will be completely digested. Getting it what I'm trying to say? So in the aeration tank, the watery wastes enters which already has aerobic bacteria, in it, right? Then the compressed air bubbles are passed through this waste to provide oxygen to the bacterias. What kind of bacterias they are? They are aerobic bacterias, right?
Yes, sir.
To the bacterias, aerobic bacterias, for oxygen to the bacterias to increase the bacterial activity. Then what the bacteria will do? So the bacteria digest
The small food
bacterias.
particles.
Exactly. So the bacteria digest the small food particles, right? It will also digest the human waste. If some human waste is still present in it, it is digested, soaps, etc. And now it will leaves fairly pure water. Although not completely pure, but fairly it is pure. So that
Can
is
we
the,
drink?
of course we cannot drink this water right now. It is not fit for human consumption right now. Even in the complete process, when the water would be coming out from the disinfected tank, still it is not fit for drinking. We can use it for other purposes, but not for drinking. Getting it now? Hmm. So that is the case. Now from the clarifier, now the water goes into the disinfect from the aeration tank, I mean to say. Now the water goes into the clarified tank. So right now we will be discussing about this clarified tank. This is the actual image of a clarified tank that you can see here. Okay, now pay attention here, Razan. Yeah, pay attention here. So this is the actual image of a clarified tank. Okay. Now in the clarified tank, what is happening? The water that is coming into this tank. Yes.
For the big tanks, like looking like water, they are different.
Repeat again.
Near my school, there are many big tanks. So in outside, like in the drawing, it's written. The drawing is water. So are they these things?
The drawing is water. What
No,
exactly are you saying?
near my school, there are many tanks, big huge ones, and also like the cover is the drawing of it is water. The water,
Oh,
sorry,
those might be water storage tank. In your
no,
school,
like
you. Mhm.
not in my school, like while the road near my school. There are there are big huge tanks near my school.
Mhm.
Are they these things like these schoolers?
No, no. Usually, the wastewater treatment plant is away from the city. Okay, na? It is away from the crowded places. It is kind of outside the city, so it is located not close to where the people are living. Okay, Rasan. So those might be something else. Okay. Now, the water after the aeration tank, is allowed to stand in a second sedimentation tank that is basically being called as clarifier. Now here the microbes present get settled at the bottom of the tank in the form of activated sludge. Getting it? So whatever kind of microorganisms are now present in this water coming from the aeration tank, it will be settling at the bottom of the tank in the form of activated sludge. And it is basically 97% water. This activated sludge is basically 97% made up of water only. So at this stage, the water has very low level of organic matter, right? And it is very
Yes.
low amount of low level of organic matter suspended in it. Okay, no? And does not contain many harmful things. Okay, now it is safe, but it is it is safe for general consumption. Getting it, but it is disinfected by chlorine or ozone before distributing it. Okay, so let us understand what happens in this clarifier, which is basically the second sedimentation tank. Second sedimentation tank. You will see that the structure of this and the first sedimentation tank, both of them were similar. Both of them were sloping at the center. Okay. Yeah. So the water after the aeration tank goes to the clarifier, that is second sedimentation tank. That is second sedimentation tank. In this, what is happening? The microbes present in the water, the microbes, you understand? In short, it's microorganisms. In short, is microbes. So the microbes present in the water, settles at the bottom. At the bottom of tank, right? In the form of activated sludge. Activated sludge. And this activated sludge that you see here, it is 97% made up of water only. So activated sludge is 97% made up of water, keep that in mind. So, and it is 97% made up of water. Okay. So at this stage, we see that the water has a very low amount of suspended organic matter. So at this stage, water has very low level of suspended organic matter. Like organic matter, suspended organic matter basically would be the small food particles, small human waste, or so particles that remain suspended into the water, does not settles down, but remains in it. So at this stage, it will have very less amount of suspended organic matter in it. Now, what happens to this activated sludge and the sludge that was being produced in this first sedimentation tank, right? So from this, the sludge was going to the digester, and from this tank also the sludge goes to the digester. So the activated sludge, then
they will be
Hmm.
they will be cleaned up with the scrapper.
No. Like here, it is not being removed with the help of a scrapper. It was only in the first sedimentation tank. Okay. So the activated sludge goes to the digester, and the sludge is coming from the first sedimentation tank into the digester. And in the digester, what will happen now? We'll be learning about that. So as the sludge is going into the digester basically, so thereby it will lead to production of biogas, right? And that biogas will be used as a fuel. Getting it? Then also we see that like compost will also be prepared from it. We'll be discussing about that later on, about the digester. So after the clarifier tank, now the water goes into the disinfected tank where chlorination will happen. As we have discussed, that chlorine tablets would be added that will kill the harmful bacteria present in it and will also remove the uh, chemicals, harmful chemicals present in it. Now, sometimes even we will give ozone treatment to the water. The treated water now that is having very less amount of organic suspended waste in it is now being is now sent into the disinfected tank. So disinfection with chemicals like chlorine or sometimes ozone is also done before it is distributed to peoples, before it is released into the water body. So in the disinfected tank, chemical process is done and basically chlorine tablets are added to kill harmful bacteria and remove harmful chemicals. Harmful chemicals. This process is called as chlorination. Okay. Now, what about the sludge and the activated sludge? So the sludge and the activated sludge goes into the digester where the biogas is being produced, right? And the what happens to the sludge? Like biogas is being produced in the digester tank, and if you were to recall this diagram, in this we had learned that biogas is obtained, but the sludge is later on falling onto the sand drying bed, where the water would be excess water evaporates and some of it will percolate through the sand, and then it is converted into compost and will be later on used as manure. So in the digester tank, biogas is produced that will be used as fuel or can be used to convert electricity, to produce electricity also. Then the sludge basically, which is dried. So sludge after being dried on the sand beds can be used as manure, to increase the fertility of the soil. So that is all about the wastewater treatment plant. An important thing to be considered that these two are the byproducts of the wastewater treatment plant, right? Like byproduct is something that you get, like you did not intended to get this, but you get these things as extra. Okay, we intended to get the clean water out of this, but in the process of doing so, you have got the biogas and you have got the manure. So these are the byproducts. So that was all about the wastewater treatment plant. Hope you have understood this. Okay.